I think our gut is always stronger than anyone else's advice, and our gut will tell us what the right advice is to listen to. And that was a life-changing moment for me, on the page you just showed. And when I look back at so many of the mistakes I made, they were when I didn't listen to my own gut and started to second guess myself. And a big reason I wrote Believe It is really just to talk about how do you go from, because, my story, a lot of people think, oh, it's Denny's waitress turned billion-dollar entrepreneur. But my real story is a girl who didn't believe in herself and figured out how to, and didn't trust myself and learn how to tune in and hear my own intuition and trust it. And I just know it's the story of so many other people out there right now, watching us live right now, who I see in the comments. We're all on this journey in life, I think, of really learning, as you would say, Evan, to believe in ourselves and everything else. So
I want to dive into one specific thing, which is your language is precise. You talk about, loving yourself and recognizing beauty and trust and intuition, and even the term seasons. I think, I want to explore that in a second, because sometimes we talk about our life being a certain way, but when it really, if you step far enough back and you look, there's seasons, and just like, it's 41 and raining here in Seattle right now, it's going to be 75 and sunny in 3 months. And we forget that. But I want to go back to language, because you talk so much about it. And I'm wondering, did you have the language before you became successful, or was the success because, was the success because of your language, or did you develop it after you were successful, looking backwards? The way you're programming your mind, I can tell it's so, maybe it's not intentional, or maybe it's not precise, but it appears from where I'm sitting that these words of, trusting, intuition, love, care, values, like those shine or are very dim in the brightest or darkest days of our lives. And I'm wondering, is that a programming that you learned across those 3 years? I've seen the pictures of your living room, where your office, as you were, where Marie worked. Like, what came first, your success or the language?
Yeah, I think in parallel, because I think I tried to always pay attention to what is it that's making me feel like this is right, and what's not feeling fulfilling. And what I mean by that is, there were times where I was doing 100-hour weeks for years, and I learned, following sales numbers didn't feel fulfilling, but reading customer letters where women are bawling their eyes out, or saying, they feel confident for the first time in a long time, or that they don't even wear makeup, they don't want to buy our products, but that they feel beautiful because we're showing real women and whatever it was, right? When I read those things, I actually realize, what I'm doing is bigger than myself. And I feel the day more. I feel like what I'm doing matters. I feel like, I can't just show up again and do another show on autopilot, because this isn't about me. It's about the blessing of someone else sharing this. So it's like I learned what felt good and what felt right and what didn't. And I think for a lot of us, whether you're a creator or maybe you're someone who's achiever based. A lot of my friends who are achievers, which is a lot of entrepreneurs, we kind of all learn this, that if we just focus on that big goal or that big achievement, it's kind of never enough. It's like, okay, then what's next? And it never fills your soul. And, along the journey, just learning what fills my soul and paying attention to it. And part of that, in terms of language, part of that was also learning that the only way I'm going to actually make an impact is to also not make it about me, right? So even just, what's one thing that started happening naturally is when I would go on QVC, I didn't talk about, like I would talk, I guess you is probably the most common word I would use, because I knew it wasn't about me. And even to the moment, that where we got this one shot, I had this realization, Chase, in this biggest moment probably in my career, which was after crying in the parking lot, freaking out, all the things for a week before the airing. I remember walking in the studio, and that one shot, that 10-minute window, I saw the clock on the floor that said 10 minutes. I had thought that I knew what I was going to do in the 10 minutes. I had produced this whole thing, written it all out, like start to finish. I was going to do this demonstration on my wrist, and that I'd practiced in my bathroom mirror to show how our concealer is better than the top 2 department store concealers, all this stuff. And I walk in the studio, and the host, because they pair you with a QVC host, and then you're the guest, right? That's supposed to explain your product. The host was awesome and amazing. And I shared with her what I want to do. And this is like 2 minutes before the live show. And she says, okay, thank you, sugar, but here's what we're going to do. And so everything I had planned was out the window. And I was just like, okay, and I knew I could trust. I mean, they're so good at their jobs. I knew I could trust her, but it's also just scary when everything's on the line. And so as we stood there in the studio live, right, about to go live to 100 million homes, and I see this clock, and it's like 10 minutes. And then I learned that you're not guaranteed the 10 minutes. If you start selling and you're a minute or 2 in and you're not hitting their numbers, your minutes jump. So you're down to the 2 minutes, and you just lost 6 minutes, which is a lot of money, like all the things. And so there's so much pressure. And so I remember the 10-minute clock, and I remember it was like 9:59, 9:58, and I was like we're live on national television, right?
This is real.
Yeah, it's real. Happening. And when you talk about language and about where and when it develops, for me, I remember the moment in real time of this happening, where we were like 9:58, 9:57, and I was like, I would go in and out of being bigger than myself or being about myself, and this, I think, is important for any creator, any person, any leader, any business owner, any person, really. But what I mean by this is, I remember in that live moment with all the pressure in the world, I would make it about myself for a second and think things like, is my dress too tight on national television? I remember feeling like sweat running. This is so gross, but I was so nervous, like sweat running down my back. And I was like, are my Spanx going to catch the sweat? So I start thinking these thoughts, which is about me. And I knew in that moment, if I even waste any of my time and my one shot making this about me, I'm done. I really wanted to shift culture in the beauty industry. I really wanted to do something bigger than myself. And so in that moment, I knew that, and I knew it had to be about her. And so, and so then I remember walking over to all the models that were all ages and shapes and sizes and skin tones, and calling them beautiful and meaning it, and having this experience. I remember my bright red, bare-faced, rosacea-filled face came up on national TV. And I just remember the whole thing. And then there was like a minute left and the host says, the deep shade is almost gone. The tan shade is down to 200 units or something like that. And I was like, and then I remember at the 10-minute mark, the sold out sign came up across the screen. And I literally start sobbing on TV. And my husband came running through the double doors of the studio. And I'm like crying. I'm like, real women have spoken. And he's like, we're not going bankrupt. And this whole thing. And I was just like, whoa. And that one airing turned into 5 that year, 101 the next year. And we eventually got over 250 live shows a year for 8 years. And still at this moment, and built the largest beauty brand in QVC's history. And it is right now at this moment. And I only share that because it was 3 years of no's and being told you're not the right fit. And I just think that no one can tell you you're not the right fit. You know what I mean? No one can tell you that your dream isn't going to work, and no one can tell you that, that you're not the right fit, or that you're not, that your vision isn't going to be successful. And I think most people don't mean bad. I think they want the best for you. They're just, again, even experts sometimes just see things through their own experience. And if they've only seen one thing work before and you're doing something novel, or you're doing something only the way you're going to do it, then just by definition, it's novel. And I think a lot of times, even experts who are amazing and meanwhile are only capable of seeing things as being successful if they've already seen them done before. And I learned that. And the last part of this, Chase, is that Alan Burke, the guy who's the head of all of beauty, right? Who said you're not the right fit. After, and then I cried myself to sleep for 3 days. After we launched on QVC, he ended up becoming a dear friend and one of my greatest mentors in my entire life. He is till this day. And after he retired from QVC, we actually hired him in a paid position on our advisory board for It Cosmetics. And so the guy who rejected me was now working for me. And to top it all off is, the last thing I'll say is, had he said yes any sooner, like sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. And had he said yes any sooner, I think we would have failed on QVC. I didn't know at the time, but we weren't operationally sophisticated enough to handle the back end of an account that large and all those things. And so, it was a blessing he said no when he did. And I think that sometimes rejection is often just grace, like serendipitous grace, wrapped in this package that really sucks.
Yeah, it's a pill that's tough to swallow at the time. But again, looking backwards, that's the way that we can connect the dots, right? We can't, that so much of this doesn't make sense. And thank you for sharing the story behind the story. I truly believe that the most important words in the world are the ones that we say to ourselves. And your ability to navigate rejection, your ability to, as you say, get quiet and still, seems to be, both here in the show and in the book, like absolutely foundational.
One of my favorite Oprah stories from Believe It is you're about to go on QVC and you're stressing out because you only have 10 minutes and you've bought all this inventory that's kind of make or break, and you want to do it your way and show real people and show your real face with the skin issues that you had, and everybody's telling you no, it's the wrong thing, and you drive to the parking lot and you're sitting outside QVC, and then you imagine Oprah and Color Purple and how she manifested that. Take us a little deeper into that story.
Yeah. I feel like, thank you for asking that question. I feel like there's probably people that follow you and there's stories you share, and then they grab onto those, right? And they tap in. We can all tap into other people's stories to give us strength. And it's really why I wrote this book too, is because my prayers, all the stories and struggles and lessons I've gone through, hopefully someone else can grab onto those and use them in their own journey. So yeah, one of those big stories was after 3 years of hearing no from all the beauty retailers, all the department stores, right? I created a product that I believed in. And a lot of people watching us right now, maybe that are entrepreneurs or that are creating something, and maybe you're in a space where you're like not getting the traction you hoped, or you're having people tell you no or not believe in you. That was my journey for 3 years. So everyone had been telling us no. QVC had said no time after time after time. And we finally got this big break, Evan. We finally got this big break, and we were going to get one shot on QVC. And it meant we had this 10-minute window to either sell our product and hit the sales goal or not come back, right? And just to give everyone a little bit of context, QVC's live television shopping channel would broadcast to 100 million homes. And at the time, Evan, we were still just selling 2 to 3 orders a day on our website, barely staying alive. 3 years into the business, hearing no after no after no after no, not knowing if we're going to make it. And we get this one shot to go live in this 10-minute window. And so I'm like, okay. And then I learned it's a consignment deal, which means that we're not pay. So we have to pay for all the inventory, right, to make it, ship it in. And then we go on air and we're only paid for what sells. And I learned then that we would need to sell over 6,000 units of our product to hit the sales goal in a 10-minute window. So 6,000 units in this 10-minute window. Meanwhile, Evan, I'm like, eat like it was a date night. Me and my husband would have a date night if it was like the $1 hot dogs at Costco. And I don't know if you've ever been to a Costco and the outdoor hot dog stand, and you go there and it's $1 for a hot dog, and they're good hot dogs, but like that's as fancy as we were down, right? And so to figure out, okay, wow, everything's on the line for our business. We have to figure out how we had to borrow money. We got turned away from 22 banks. It was the 23rd bank that said yes, which is a small bank in California, gave us an SBA loan just to cover the amount of inventory to do this one airing on QVC. So everything was on the line. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was so much for me to handle. It felt so heavy. And I flew out to QVC, which is just outside of Philadelphia, a week before we got this one shot to go live. And I knew in that one shot, we were either my whole life would be changed, or we were going to go bankrupt and out of business. And it felt so heavy, and here's why. We hired third-party consultants who are amazing at helping people sell on television and sell their products in stores and all those things, and they help so many people. And they all told me the same thing. They said, if you're going to have a shot at succeeding in this 10-minute window, here's what you need to do. You need to put this type of model on the air, which was all women with perfect skin. And I said to them, but the authentic reason I started this company is because I don't have perfect skin. Like, I have bright red rosacea. It gets bumpy everywhere. And I'm like, I created this product because there's so many people out there like me who can't find anything that works. I'm like, QVC is alive. You can't fake it. You can't Photoshop it. I'm like, I want to go on television and like prove it live. You have to remember, Evan, this is before Instagram Live. This is before YouTube, right? And I was like, and no one was doing this. I'm like, let me just take my makeup off and show my bright red rosacea. Let me prove live how this product works. And I had this vision of putting real women of all different ages and shapes and sizes and skin tones and skin problems and all this stuff. And let me show live on them. And these expert consultants were mortified. Like, they're like, listen, and they wanted the best for me, but they're like, if you're getting one shot and we want you to win, and here's what you need to do. You need to put this type. Women will only buy makeup from people who have perfect skin, who they'll never be able to look like. And so I was being told this message, and I feel like every one of us in our life, we have moments in our life where our gut instinct is telling us one thing, and other people are telling us another. Other experts are telling us another. Other, people's opinions, or the world that maybe we're not having success in our business yet, that lack of traction makes us feel like maybe our gut instinct's wrong. So the moment you're talking about, I flew out a week ahead of time, a week before this 10-minute window. I sat in the QVC parking lot, and I sat in this rental car all alone. And I just stared at the front door of QVC. And I knew the next time I walked through that door, my whole life was going to change, or I was going to be bankrupt, and my whole life was going to change for that way. And I just sat there praying and crying. And then it felt heavy. And I felt like, okay, it's easy in life for us to know what we stand for, but then like often our values are put on the line. Do you know what I mean? And I was in this moment of going, and honestly, self-doubt started to enter my head. I'm like, I had thoughts of like, oh, well, I don't want to go bankrupt. So maybe if I listen to them and do it their way, the third-party consultants, if I do it their way to start with, and then I have success, and then I try it my way. I had all these thoughts. But I also know you can't fake authenticity. I also know the second you show up as who other people want you to be, you create a barrier of disconnection between you and any other human being, including an audience, including your customers, right? So I knew that. And I sat in that car freaking out every day for a week. And I prayed and I cried. And then I'm like, what would Oprah do? And I remember a show where she said she wanted the color purple so bad that she ran around a track and was praying the song I Surrender All and crying. And so I started singing I Surrender All, and I literally asked God to take it from me because it felt so heavy. And I also just remembered, who is this person I'm talking to? If I'm going to have one shot in 10 minutes on QVC, like, I imagined, for some reason, I kept imagining a single mom, like, folding laundry, who was too busy to remember that she mattered and too busy to remember that she's beautiful. And I just thought about, like, if I was going to get the blessing of 2 seconds of her time and she's going to turn on her television and see me live on QVC, I wanted her to look up and see other women who look like her and see me calling them beautiful and meaning it, even if she didn't buy a single thing. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to stand for something than sell a ton of product and stand for nothing. And that's really what it came down to. But sometimes we know what we need to do, but when it's the hard thing, it's hard. And I walked in that building for that 10-minute airing, and it was like one of the scariest things I've ever done, because it just felt so heavy. I was dripping sweat everywhere. I was a hot mess, to be honest. And like, I wasn't nervous for television, but I was nervous that my whole company was on the line. And I remember the 10-minute clock started, and it was like 9:59, 9:58, and we were live in front of 100 million homes. And I remember the moment my bright red bare face before shot came up, and then we walked over to all the models, and I showed all different women of different ages and skin tones and skin types and all sizes and shapes. And I remember there was about a minute left in the presentation, and the host started saying the shades were selling out. The deep shade is down to 100 units, and the tan. And I was just like, and then when the 10-minute mark hit, and the sold out sign came right up across. Yes, that moment right there, I literally started sobbing.
34, everybody. 30.
So you know, I think that in life. And listen, I've learned so much from experts. I continue to every single day. I am a lifetime student. And anytime I get advice from an expert, I think it's so important, or anybody, a friend, a family member, I think it's so important we check in with our gut and go, is that advice right for me? And I think our gut is always stronger than anyone else's advice. And our gut will tell us what the right advice is to listen to. And that was a life-changing moment for me. On the page you just showed. And when I look back at so many of the mistakes I made, they were when I didn't listen to my own gut and started to second guess myself. And a big reason I wrote Believe It is really just to talk about how do you go from, because, you know, my story, a lot of people think, oh, it's Denny's waitress turned billion-dollar entrepreneur. But my real story is a girl who didn't believe in herself and figured out how to, and didn't trust myself and learn how to tune in and hear my own intuition and trust it. And I just know it's the story of so many other people out there right now, watching us live right now, who I see in the comments. We're all on this journey in life, I think, of really learning, as you would say, Evan, to believe in ourselves and everything else.
I simultaneously run a bunch of other companies, and so it's a lot. So how did you pull through? Because that's how I do it. What do you do?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I don't know how this is happening, but there's days where you like, we both went on a walk at 5 p.m. at the same time. Like, I don't know what's going on. I think we're just all meant to be in community together and sharing this real stuff going on, because last night, this is a true story for anyone who, like you said, someone's already done it, right? And I think the beauty in that is it helps us feel less alone when we're going through this space of like, oh my gosh, things aren't going my way, whatever's, this isn't as glamorous as I thought, whatever. Thankfully, I've been through that rodeo so many times in building It Cosmetics, where it was never as glamorous as I thought it was going to be. So I'm used to that part. But last night, it's just funny, you're editing video. So last night, I didn't get the graphics in time for the event that had the website on them, which is, when you want people to share the news. I haven't even spoken, I shared on Growth Day yesterday in the morning show about the big event, but I hadn't posted on my own social till today. So last night I needed those graphics. They hadn't come in yet. So I was in that app called One Shot, literally designing, InShot, thank you. I was in InShot designing the graphics to have a website on the bottom because they hadn't come in yet. And so like you do whatever it takes, right? You do what you got to do. So I was up all night designing all these graphics, and that's some of them are what I was able to post this morning on my Instagram, because we're 9 days out from the event. And so it's like, you do what you got to do. And what I was going to say is, this is focus week on Growth Day morning show, right? One of the things Brendan says a lot that so many of you have posted and reposted and interpreted in your own way is, who needs you on your A game? And for me, that's also another way of saying, like, what's my bigger mission? What's the thing? who am I serving that's greater than myself? What's the thing bigger?
Yes.
And, you know, it reminds me of so many times at Cosmetics when we built this company from scratch, right? And tried to enter this crowded space, which felt impossible to break through in the whole beauty world, and dealt with years and years of rejections and no's and all that. When we finally started growing, I really think how we used focus and how the leaders, when I finally started hiring enough, when I could finally afford to hire people, and we grew to over 1,000 employees, and we had leaders so much smarter than me in all these departments, and how we were able to grow. One of the big reasons was focus. And it's funny, I was talking to Paulo about this last night. By the way, can I just share something with you, keeping it real? Paulo watches these morning shows.
What?
And then
Does he really? Hey, Paulo! I love him.
No, but this is his nature, because for 10 years on QVC, right? Here's the thing, you guys, for 10 years, I would be live on QVC. He watches the show by the second in the green room, and then he gives me feedback after on what worked, what didn't work, what people responded to. So now, though, I'm not selling anything. I'm just showing up to grow with Brendan and just celebrating community. And he still gives me feedback. And I'm like, I don't want to hear it.
Good man. Good. No, everyone, but you want it. You love that. I mean, you ask me often. Listen, high performers ask for feedback. You do. You ask me, how's this going? You check in with me all the time. Is this okay? Do we like this? Are we having fun? And I think that's a huge thing to performance, but also, to passion and discipline.
Yeah.
Like if you're not getting the feedback, there's nothing to challenge yourself on. If there's nothing to challenge yourself on, then you'll lose the passion, right? It's just like in a company, if you're running a company and it doesn't grow, you start losing the passion because you're like, oh, there's no rhythm to our growth. We're not pushing any boundary here. We're not trying new things. And so I think it's a huge thing. So
it's huge.
As long as I understand too, we might not always want it from our spouses. I totally get it.
That's the thing. You know, for me, you know me, I will ask. I remember the first time I did a keynote on your stage, and you instantly went into, here's what you could, all the things that I could. I'm like, oh, tell me more. Like, feedback is such a gift. Like, I have no ego about it, and I crave it. Like, I crave it. And then I would say the one caveat is when it's your spouse, sometimes you just don't, like, if you hung the painting wrong, you don't want to hear about it. Like, you know what I mean? So that's the tricky part, but I'm so grateful. Sure. How amazing. He's literally up in the morning watching this show. And he adores you, of course. So,
oh, he's the man. I appreciate that. That's super kind. And Denise, Denise watches too. And I will say, I love her feedback. Maybe not around the house or about how I leave cups like this.
That's it.
I don't know. Can you all see that? That's the morning shake there. It's so thick out of So I get a lot of feedback about not leaving these around the house, but Denise has guided me to being a better man. She's helped me build a better community and business. She's helped me choose our offerings and our design, our feel, and
she helped me pick a book cover.
Helped you pick the book cover. I mean, almost everything that looks good in my career or brand came from some conversation with Denise. So
with Denise.
I know we both lucked out on people supporting the dream and doing the hard work behind it. Yeah. That, Paulo wasn't on, QVC a curbillion times, but he's running the company, and that, like, those things are priceless. And I actually, I know this is going to sound weird, I encourage couples to give each other way more feedback. Mm-hmm. They just need to learn how to do it and where to pick their targets.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, you don't need, like, I love how you said, you don't need feedback on everything, and you have to do it with openness and grace and humility and compassion for the other person too, which is hard. The more you're around people, the easier it is to be flippant and be like, pop, 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 pop. And we have to remind ourselves, oh, right, everybody is sensitive to feedback. Let me enter this conversation. Like, even when I gave you got done on the stage, right? And here I am, I'm nervous, right? I'm talking to Jamie Kern Lima. She's just spoke on my stage as a gift to my audience, blew it out of the water, got an unbelievable standing ovation. Probably my very first ever moment where I saw somebody on stage for their real first time, in terms of like a full keynote about their story, smash it that hard. And I'm backstage and I'm like, Okay, well, you know what? I'm nervous, but I'm gonna give her some feedback. And she's more successful than me. She just crushed it out there. But also, if you have a passion about a thing, or you've observed a thing a lot of times, or you worked a lot of things, and you feel that compelling, the way to do it is you enter the conversation softly. So I entered. I said, I don't remember how timid I was. I was like, "Yeah, it was so amazing. I'm hugging you. We're celebrating. We're like basically dancing back there." And I was like, would you like any feedback on? And I'm like so sensitive. Would you like any feedback on that? Because I saw some. And you're like, "Oh, let's go." And I said, "Oh, you sure?" And so I like delicately walked you to the stage. Everyone was going away. And then when I saw you were in there, I'm like grabbing your arm. I'm just pulling. I'm like, "Look what you can do on stage." And it was great because you were open to it. And I think that's important. But also I was very sensitive to it because a lot of people who I've done that to, that really shakes them up, Jamie. Could you imagine you speak to a couple thousand of my audience, you come off stage and I'm like, "I have some tips for you." Not everybody jams with that. Right. So hi, Jamie, give her a round of applause for taking the feedback. And
always.
She so improved on it. And me too. She gives me tons of feedback, which has been super helpful.
This week's message was momentum. And it's so funny. Jamie and I had tech issues all week. One of my tech leads in my company, his Mac Pro blew up 24 hours ago also, Jamie. And then, you know what? On top of it, here's the thing about momentum. If you're an entrepreneur, shout out. If you're an entrepreneur, make sure you give us double hand clap down below so we can see it, because that's how we started. And and let me share you this quick story with you. When you're, Jamie, Denise and I were talking about this briefly in the kitchen this morning. It's like, when you're an entrepreneur, like I was talking with Facebook, they're like, "Oh, just, send us to your CTO." I'm like, "I am the tech department." Or you work with other people, like, "Send it to your HR." I'm like, "I am HR." Or give it to your marketing person. I am. Like, you wear every single hat when you are building your dream. Like, there is a component. You have to be a Swiss Army knife. Like, I am the lawyer. I am the HR. I am the digital marketer. I am, that's just a reality at some parts of your business career. Do you remember those days?
I remember those days so well. I remember that. And I even remember some of our first partnerships or all the things. And they were like, "Can you have your legal team review?" And I'm thinking to myself, A, I have no legal team, and B, I can't afford one, even if I. You're like, "Absolutely, we'll circle back with legal edits right away."
We'll get right back to you. And you remember you were replying to people as if you were like an assistant and like a make-believe human.
So Brendan, early, a lot of the early years, it was like when you just got to figure everything out. Like you called it, right, a Swiss Army knife. And it's so funny because, we grew IT Cosmetics to over 1,000 employees across the country. And when I think back, though, to the first several years, when you can't afford to hire anyone else, you just figure it out the best you can. For me, my other strategy was praying a lot. And then I eventually, I was like, "Oh, this isn't working." When I email myself to Good Morning America, "Hi, I'm available for an interview." So then I was like, at one point, my middle name is Marie. And so Marie got her own email address. It was marie@itcosmetics.com. So she became head of PR. She became head of customer service. So it was and so Marie would pitch
And Marie was you.
Yes. Yes.
So you were using like a alias, I think they call it.
It was I was trying to. So I would email and say Good Morning America or Today Show, all of them, and I would be like, "Great news! Our founder, Jamie Kern Lima, is available for an interview." And it was just I don't know. You got to do what you got to do in the beginning, but it's. I think these stories are important because sometimes when we're in those seasons, and they can be multi-year. For me, it was a years of this. Someone can go on your company Facebook or your Instagram or whatever, and everything looks like you got it together. And then you're behind the scenes, and Marie is hustling just as much as Jamie. And actually, Jackie, Jackie, our very first full-time employee, we hired her when she was 6 months pregnant. She's a friend of mine now of 20 plus years that I was mentioning the other day. She actually also did this. I should have talked about this part and believe it.
Oh, so many entrepreneurs do this. Absolutely.
Yeah, her middle name is Anne. So at It Cosmetics, at one point, we had Jamie and Marie and Paula, and we had Jackie, and we had Anne. Anne had her own email address too, because we were just trying to it was, yeah, entrepreneur life.
Listen, I think this is so important about momentum that we didn't really get to real deep this week in terms of when you are trying to gain a lot of momentum, you got to deal with the overwhelm of wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah.
And not be upset about it, not bemoan it, not get angry about it. Like last night, I was up till 2 a.m. reviewing legal stuff and just contracts and things of some deals we have going on. And I'm like, wow, this is just, I can't believe I still got to do this. And then I heard my mind say that. I still have to do this. I was like, you little brat, get the damn work done. Like what a lucky opportunity that you're doing deals like this. Get through the paperwork. And I do that same thing. It's like, I got to shoot another video. It's going to impact millions of people one day. Yeah. Turn the damn light on. Get to it, kid. Like I hear myself talk and I get overwhelmed because it's hard or it's too many things. And even this morning, I had a huge, we're about to launch the Growth Day app next month, April 15th. We finally launched the app. It's going to be so huge, right? So we already have, thousands and thousands of people in Growth Day. But then when we open up the tools to the public, it's going to be insane. But to do that, like this morning, I'm doing all these API things and these credential things and these callback things and all this authorization stuff. And I'm just, my eyes are like, and I went out to get my Growth Day mug this morning, right before the show. And I just said to Denise, I'm like, I think I just broke my brain. I think it just broke. That was like, stuff I don't even, it was so hard. I think my brain just broke. And that's entrepreneurialism, but that's chasing your dream. You guys want a promotion at work? It's going to break your brain. It's going to be so hard to learn all these new things, right? You want to try this new project or attempt something new or take on a new level of skill set or responsibility. Don't bemoan the overwhelm. Don't be like, oh, this is part of it. This is the stretch. This is what's going to make me so capable in so many areas. Like you drop me in any country in the world, I know I can run the route of hard work, of discipline, of persistence, of real desire, of the ability to emotionally regulate myself to deal with whatever. And I can build it again. I know that anywhere. I put me in, I'll build another one. Like it has no problem because it's not the perfect strategy that gets you ahead. It's how do you cope with the struggle? I'll say it again. It's not the perfect strategy that gets you ahead. It's how do you cope with the struggle? Everyone's got the same strategy. You can buy the strategies. You can learn the strategies. But how do you deal with the overwhelm of it all? And again, I'll come back to what we talked about this week. Either your mindset is towards momentum or it's towards ego protection. And if you can adopt that learning mindset, like, oh, it's going to be hard. It's going to break my brain. But when it broke my brain, I wasn't complaining. I don't want to ever do this again. I'm going to stop. I didn't decide to take the day off. I was like, damn, this is hard, man. Cool. Let's keep going.
One line that I have found, one saying, one message I found that for me, single biggest game changer for momentum shifts is this idea that I don't have to, I get to, right? Yes. And it's kind of that same thing. And this for me is even in my morning walks. It's in the day when I'm doing stuff for the book that I don't want to do, or all the back end stuff, right? When we put on this huge event, which was literally the most incredible, one of the most incredible days I've ever had. And
you were so in flow. Jamie killed it. If y'all were unstoppable, make sure you let her know in the comments. She just absolutely slayed that live online event. Slayed it. I watched her behind the scenes and she was just like,
and the thing is, I loved every second of it. You know what I mean? And we were 11 and a half hours live in that studio, and I loved it. And with an event with that magnitude, with 18 speakers and 200,000+ people signed up for it, with an event that size and all the teams that go into it, behind the scenes, and even right now, even today, which is like 2 weeks later, there's still stuff. There's still glitches that happened, or one prize winner, they didn't get their address, or like all the things. And I'm still every day. I cannot even keep up right now with the amount of the things I don't want to do. And so I'll lose my joy if I don't flip it around and say, oh, I don't have to do this. I get to do this. Like, I get to try to figure out this prize winner's address because that we still can't figure out, because all the things, right? But even also from work stuff just to life stuff, I really have to say that to myself a lot. Like in the mornings when I don't want to be up at 5 a.m. and I want to just like curl up with coffee and one of those love blankets and all the stuff, I'm like, okay, I've got to move my body, and I don't want to, but I get to. And I have to flip it so that I propel forward with momentum in my morning walk. I think that thought, I don't have to, I get to, every single morning. And then I'm like, oh, wow. And my focus shifts to something that actually propels momentum. I shift to like, wow, how blessed am I? I can I can take a step.
Yes.
And another step. Like, I get to, not everyone gets to, right? And I have to shift it that way. So for me, I don't have to, I get to. I think about that a lot, especially the stuff I don't want to do, especially the stuff that breaks your brain, as you would say.
Breaks your brain. And, being in the high performance world for so long, I get to work with a lot of unbelievable military leaders. I mean, multi-star generals, people who have some of the most difficult responsibilities in the military, and really aspirational leaders, just incredible people. And that phrase that they so often use at the top and now is more perpetuated in the common marketplace is, embrace the suck. And if you're going through something and it's not like, oh, I get to do this, it sucks. Yeah. That's okay. That's where it's like, okay, this does suck. Let's acknowledge it. Don't want to do it. It's okay that you don't want to do things. That's what I'm always telling people too. It's like, there's some things I don't want to do, but it's not a preference. The question is it required? Is it required for you to move the ball forward? Is it required for you to grow? Is it required for you to go to another level? Is it necessary? And if it is, you can say this sucks. I don't want to do it. I hate it. I'm fine with all that, but you better get on with it. And in the military, they say, embrace the suck. It's like, okay, this does suck. Embrace it. Got to work through it. In my language, I say, honor the struggle, or I say, bring the joy. It's like, okay, this morning, the average human would have been so discouraged, frustrated. Brendan, 20 years ago, would probably put his fist through the damn monitor. I've been like, I hate this. Now I'm like, yeah, this sucks. Dang, this is hard. All right, let's get on with it. And it's not going to ruin the rest of my day. And I want you to all hear that, because as we head into Friday, I think there's two mindsets into a Friday. One is you are ramping down, powering down, and you're kind of limping along, inching along, and just going through the motions just to finish the Friday and be done. That's the underperformer. The high performer goes, Friday finishers. What are the major activities I need to put a bow on? I need to complete by the end of this day to end this week well and to set myself up well for next week. It's just a completely different mentality. They might have the exact same responsibilities, job, payments, kids, like the whole thing, same thing. But one mindset is just like, good. And the other one goes, all right, yeah, this kind of sucked. It was a long week. So let me finish it strong, right? Either the week sucked and you whimper to a close, or the week sucked and you finish it strong. That mindset, that's the winning mindset. I just believe it's true. And it's so key to what we talk about in Growth Day, because there's just a different level of striving ambition that challenges yourself, even when, momentum is hard. You still got to show up.
Yeah, that's so good. And I love too that when you honor the struggle or embrace the suck or bring the joy, it literally impacts every single area of your life, not just like your goals for the week. Like, it's every part of your life. You know what I mean? It's on a Sunday morning when the Keurig machine explodes and your kids are like, I can handle it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like every every part of your life.
I talk about a lot in Believe It, actually, how I had to overcome some of the things. Like, I remember when I was working as a Denny's waitress, right? And like, to really adopt this mindset of where I come from does not determine where I'm going, or where I'm even at right now in this moment in time doesn't limit the ability to have like God-sized dreams and to have expansive vision. And one of my closest friends who's speaking live at the event on Monday, Leah Key, always says, she grew up in a homeless shelter and she saw people all around her that did not dream, that let fear rule their life. And I'm talking about her immediate family. And, her mother said something to her as a little girl that stuck with her. She said, your predicament doesn't determine your destiny. And she'd always say to Leah, you have a light inside of you, right? And Leah held on to that, even during all the years growing up in the projects in Philadelphia when she was able to get out of a homeless shelter. And, she was like, where I come from doesn't determine where I'm going. And slowly over the years, she started making friends that had, expansive vision like she does. And, you fast forward now and she's created her own company, launched it on QVC. So she went from homeless to 100 million homes with her jewelry line. And, it's all about mindset, right? For her, it wasn't, oh, do you come from the right family? Do you have any connections? Do you have any money? No, it was for her. It was what made all the difference was adopting this mindset of believing in the possibility of her own dreams and her own self, even if she couldn't figure out how it was going to happen or how to get there one day. And I love that we're focusing on mindset this week on Growth Day Morning Show, because I think that it's like the thing. It's like the most important thing, more important than where you're at right now. Where's the traction happening or not happening in your business right now? What's going on with all the setbacks and the hard times and this hard season we've come out of? The mindset, getting that right, life-changing. That's
truth. That's truth. I think that is just a huge miss for most people, is that simple. What's true is, what I love about this Growth Day community is all of you, when I say mindset, you automatically know the insane value of that. Like, people who love personal development know, like, oh, that's foundational. But when most people come into personal growth, they've had years of bad mindset. They've had years of a bad attitude, or they've suffered, doubt, depression, discouragement for so long that it's like, oh, wow, this is the right mindset, and the ability to generate that right mindset on a consistent basis is a revolution for your life. It's not like an incremental change. It's like it's night and day. It's light and dark. It's joy or suffering. It is such a huge topic that I just believe most people, take advantage of or take for granted. But I know that our Growth Day community knows that. So if you would, in the comments down below, would you guys share with us, what is one of your favorite mindsets? Since we're Mindset Week, that's our theme for the week. What's a mindset that you think people should have? Maybe that's just a thought that you think they should have, or an attitude you think they should have, or just a way of thinking that, like a pattern that you think would be beneficial to them. I'm seeing optimism. I'm seeing gratitude. I'm seeing focus. I'm seeing joy. I'm seeing a lot of mindset for positivity, for growth. That's great. I like that one. I think it's really good. Thank you for sharing that, guys. I think that's key.
That's key. Also one thing I want to share, just that's coming to mind right now. Yeah, with the topic of mindset, Brendan, is something that you brought up earlier, right? Which is this idea, and I love these words. Like, I write all about this and Believe It. I talk about how this big realization I came through, that we're not here on this earth to compete with anyone else, right? We're just here to compete with who we know we're born capable of. And I want to share a real life story that happened to me recently in real time, actually. And I found it fascinating, right, as it pertains to mindset, because I think so many people are tuning in. They're part of our morning show right now. And maybe it's good to just do a self-check on, are you comparing yourself to anyone else? And are you thinking someone else is your competition and getting distracted by it, versus thinking, oh, I'm on my own journey. Who am I capable of becoming? And what if you actually just celebrate that other person's achievements? And here's a quick story that just happened to me that I was kind of like, because when it comes to women in particular, this is super antiquated way of thinking, but there's still amongst a lot of women this idea of like, oh, because they're so used to just seeing one woman at the table in a boardroom or what. And so there's a kind of a limited way of thinking that we're overcoming, that if another woman wins, it means it takes away from your chances of winning, right? And there's just this competitiveness that just isn't true, right? It's just not true. And Abby Wambach says, her victory is your victory. And it's so true. I want to share something that just happened that might it shocked me. So let me just share it, Kay, because I think everyone out there right now, it might help inspire you with your own mindset. But, I have some of the most inspiring people on the day speaking live, right? Including Brendan Burchard speaking live.
What?
Yeah, Brendan Burchard speaking live. And it's a whole day on building confidence. So I asked Mel Robbins to speak live, and she said yes. And I'm so excited about it. And I got some feedback, right? And I just want to share this. I got some feedback from someone saying, so Mel Robbins is the most sought after female speaker in the world right now. You know that, right? I'm like, yeah, I know that, of course. And they're like, that, like, this is your event. So are you sure you want her? Like, she might overshadow.
Oh,
no joke. Really? Yeah. Are
That's
you
so
sure?
lame.
But this is huge. This is what I want to share. Like, I'm so excited about this because I'm like, oh wow, it's seeing this play out before my eyes. Like, are you sure? Like, it's your big event, Jamie, on the whole day. You have Brendan Burchard and Tony Robbins, all these people speaking live for free. Like, Mel Robbins is the most sought after female speaker in the world. Are you sure you want her on your stage? And I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, first of all, here's how I feel authentically through and through every ounce of my being. If another woman is at the top of her game, my job, what brings me the most joy is saying, how can I lift her up higher? How can I invite her to my stage where maybe, over 100,000 people are going to see her for the first time? Like, how can I celebrate the #1 female speaker in the world, Mel Robbins, and raise her higher? Like, that's where I get my joy, #1. #2, all these people that are going to share, and what a blessing they're going to share their time with us on the day and show up, right? And it's free, by the way. It's a free event at becomingunstoppable.com. But when you show up for this event, my job is to serve. Like, my job is to go, everyone is going to spend their precious time with me on this day. I want them to get the most out of it. What a blessing to them to hear Mel Robbins speak live on the day. Like, you usually have to pay so much money to go to a keynote speech and fly somewhere to hear her speak. Same with you, Brendan. So I'm like thinking, wow, this antiquated mindset of people thinking that someone else is a threat to our own, like our own success. It's so antiquated and it's so not true. And in my own journey of building It Cosmetics from this tiny company to now it's the largest luxury makeup company in the US now, which is wild, right? It passed all the department store brands I used to save my dentist.
I remember you texting us when that happened. It was like
crazy,
woo!
Right?
Yeah.
But like, if I on that journey of building this huge company had got distracted thinking these other brands were my competition, I would never have been able to build something different or special. I would have limited myself to thinking, oh, this is my competition. It's like, oh, no. Our potential is our competition. The potential we have inside of us is our only competition.
Obscene that people still think that way. And soon as you go from, because that's just a limited pie idea, that's just if they get it, I can't. It's a zero-sum thinking, which is the worst mindset ever. Yeah. And most people go, no, but competition is really good. It's like, no, competition is really great in sports, right? Where there is a zero-sum. One team wins, the other. But even the greatest sports people of time have realized how bringing that into other parts of their life can be extraordinarily dangerous. I work with Olympians who talk about that all the time. It's like the competition on the field is really important. Off the field can ruin your life. But in business, you're really not competing with anybody but yourself. You think you are competing with other people. No, you're trying to do what you do uniquely and distinctly at the highest level of excellence. Yes, you need to know what other people are doing. Like, what is the quote unquote competition? Like, what do other people in your space do? I never even think about anyone in my space as competition. I go, oh, what are other people in my space doing? Can I learn from that to make my work better? like that learning mindset, I would share out of everything anyone could learn here. Adopting the learning mindset is the primary move to changing your life. The second one, I would say, the primary mindset, which you have, and we're kind of a theme of what we're talking about right now. The second primary mindset I think everyone should adopt is the role model mindset. I speak about this all the time. Stepping into that space of your life where you say, oh, you know what? I'm going to live with such an integrity, consistency, discipline, care for others that they see me as an example. And I'm setting a standard or an example for my kids. I'm setting an example or standard for my team. I'm setting an example or standard for the school, for this community, for this team, for this organization. Like that mindset that people are paying attention to your energy and your behavior makes you a better person. It's when we are in our own world that we become so narcissistic that we can't even recognize our effect on others, that the poison within grows. But when we recognize social animals, right? We're social animals. So when we recognize our impact with other people and we want to lift them by being a role model, suddenly it demands a better set of behaviors from us.
I love that. I feel like comparison is poison within, like exactly what you just said. It's such a distraction. Also, I want to say one thing about role model mindset too, because you talk about it so much. And I want to make one clarification, actually ask you one clarification. I think there'll be a lot of people out there who will think like, oh, I'm too flawed to be a role model. I'm too this, I've made too many past mistakes. Right? Like, I just want to say, I don't think you have to be perfect to be a role model, have a role model mindset. I don't think you don't have to like not make mistakes every day or not have misjudgments or miscalculations, or it's not that. Everyone, no matter how many mistakes you've made, how many misjudgments, how imperfect, how all those things, can still adopt a role model mindset. Can you make that clarification too? Because I think a lot of people instinctively feel like, oh, I'm not qualified to have a role model mindset. But I think
the good news is you're the only person qualifying yourself. So the good news is you're the only person qualifying yourself.
And isn't that true on almost everything?
Yes, you're the only person qualifying yourself. That's the ultimate mindset of something in personal development, which began in personal development, which is called self-reliance. Which is called the idea of taking personal responsibility or personal accountability for who you are and how you show up and what you're about. And so I think fundamentally, we have to realize all of our great role models, like the big names or the big books or the big leaders in the past, they became a role model precisely because we saw their struggle and they still showed up with intention and good behavior.
Yes.
So the struggle was not removed. The mess was not removed. The vulnerability was not removed. It was because of their success and their striving was built upon a foundation of disadvantage or difficulty that we go, that's why that person's a role model, because they still show up. So if you've been hurt or you're not perfect, the fact that you still show up with good intentions and good behaviors for others and yourself, that makes you a role model, not because you have a million. Look, there's a ton of people on Instagram. They have millions of fans for showing their butt every day. Okay, following and popularity.
No judgment. Keep going.
No, but it's just listen. Popularity does not equal role model.
Right.
Money does not equal role model. Right. Your fancy car or your jet does not equal. What equals a role model is you keep showing up even when it's hard, and you have good intentions and behaviors for others. Yeah, that happens on the daily. You start going, you know what, that person, I've literally, and I've highlighted these folks on my shows and things in the past, like I have janitors in my life and mechanics in my life and people who are like literally living in poverty in my life who were role models to me. Yeah. And even when I was in poverty in my life, seeing that from there were people in my community who didn't have anything, who were still the people you turned to because you knew they've also struggled, but you also knew they cared. I think that's the magic. We've been talking about mindset all week, and I hope it really helped you guys. I thought today, mindset, we would take on the all-important mindset of what I call integration. And mindset of integration means at the end of each day or the end of each win or the end of each week or the end of each month, I'm going to integrate the lessons that I had about myself, other people, about the world. I'm going to integrate the learnings and the wins that I had into my identity, into my psychology, meaning allow myself to feel the learning, allow myself to remind myself of the good things that happened. You know, a lot of people have a gratitude practice and like, yeah, I'm happy about that. I'm grateful about that. It's like gratitude doesn't work unless it hits the heart and absorbs into the identity, right? Your courage only grows if every time you do something where you stepped up to your fears, you acknowledge that and you go,
Yeah.
good job, Jamie. Good job, Brendan.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have strings of successes and they never get more confident. They get strings of successes. They never feel happier or more fulfilled. And it's not because they're not achieving, it's that they're not achieving right in such that they're not integrating the successes. You should feel, listen, every year of your life, you should feel more confident. Every year of your, like if you go a whole year and you don't feel more confident, it's not because the Lord didn't give you challenges to grow from that year. It's not because you didn't absolutely have to get stronger to survive the other year. It's because you didn't take a moment throughout the year to integrate and go, oh, wow, I did that. Good job.
Yeah.
Those little celebrations of wins, those little integrations of the successes is what I'm talking about. That's the mindset to integrate our learnings. Same thing, if you're jerked to your spouse or your team one day, if you don't integrate that at night that you acted inappropriately, well, then guess what? The next day, you're more likely to be a jerk again because you didn't integrate the lesson. I hope that helps people.
You know, on the topic of mindset, by the way, just to call out something you just said live that's so powerful. I don't want anyone to miss it. I mean, tiny detail on something you just said. Most people would say, oh, I've had hard times. That would be true. I'm stuck. That would be true. You just said, it's not like the Lord didn't give you hard times to grow from this year. Just the way you said that is such a deep-rooted mindset around when we have a struggle, when we have a setback, when we're in the midst of a hard season, when things aren't going our way. How many people, let's just like really, because I need to grow in this area always, right? I'm always trying to grow in this area. To think of it as, oh, wow, I'm having a setback given to me so I can grow stronger through the struggle. Like,
that's it.
It's a whole different way to think about it, but most people don't think about it. They think, oh, you know, I just think that's so powerful, just that one sentence you said. But then how to integrate it and how to say, wow, I got through that. Wow, good job. Wow, right? And for you to say too, just how many people even have victories or wins or losses, but never feel fulfilled with them, right? How many people out there, because I have been there, how many people live with us right now on Facebook and Instagram, have you like kept striving for something, an achievement, an outcome, a goal, and then you get it and you're like, oh, like you thought, you thought all of a sudden, right, you'd be fulfilled and you're not. And I think I've done that so many times. And I think that this is so powerful because if you don't have the integration piece, which is what you're talking about, you know, last night, Brendan, on that note, what you shared just reminded me of something. So whenever I'm super, super stressed out, I either randomly surf real estate in random cities I'm never even going to move to on like realtor.com or Zillow. I'll just like look at homes. I don't know. Or I'll read stories and quotes. And so last night I was so stressed out. I'm like, all right, I start reading Oprah interviews online. And one thing she said that I want to share about integration that was so powerful that I read last night is she said, you know, like her life is so full because she practices gratitude, because she is grateful for everything. And she said that people say to her, okay, sure, Oprah, but you have everything to be grateful for, right? So it's easy for you to be grateful. You have everything to be grateful for. And she says, no, I have everything to be grateful for because I'm grateful. Because I'm grateful every day for everything has happened to be grateful for. And it's sort of a chicken and the egg kind of thing, right? And I thought that was really profound. And I think that it's super important. I bring this up once before, Mel Robbins, who's a growth day coach. one of the things I'm so obsessed with that she's doing right now is this whole movement of high-fiving yourself every time you see yourself in the mirror. And I think it's so brilliant. I can't wait to talk to her about it even more. But it's carving this new grain almost of integration, just of being grateful for yourself, of celebrating yourself, of switching the whole neuroplasticity and the way grooves are carved, right? Most of us are used to looking in the mirror. And I'll just speak for myself and for the millions of women I've now had the blessing of getting to know in the course of growing It Cosmetics. Most of us, by the way, I just saw It Cosmetics on here. I've never seen them on here before.
Wow,
so there's
hi,
a
y'all.
team,
What's up,
millions
team?
of women part of It Cosmetics. I just saw them on here. There's so many
Awesome.
people part of this morning show, which is amazing. But anyways, I've had this gift of being able to talk with so many women over the years. And here's what they all say. They say when they look in the mirror, the first thing they see is whatever it is they think is wrong. And my whole mission, because of that, because of talking to so many women who say the same thing, was like, okay, how can we look in the mirror and see everything that's right, which is everything, right? I am now able to look in the mirror, see my bright red rosacea, and think that's right. Like, I'm able to do that now, but it took a lot of hard work with mindset. And back to the whole integration thing, you know, Brendan, what are your tips for everyone who's live with us right now on how do we take these wins? And a win might be, I got through the day. A win might be, I did not yell at my spouse today. A win might, like, there's so many different types of wins. A win doesn't have to be, oh, I just had $1 million launch, right? A win could be like, wow, I did better today. But how do we then integrate those around mindset so we start living and building a more fulfilling life?
Great question. And I love everything you just said, by the way. So good. So good. This
I'm
is why I love doing
this
this show.
Morning.
I know. I'm like,
Brendan.
you got some coffee in that mug? Woo!
It is coffee. I promise. After the event, though, I promised Mel Robbins we would have wine. So I might have my Growth Day Morning Show mug with some wine in it Monday night. But right now it's coffee.
I love it. So good. So good. I really believe that, like anything else you want in your life, you don't get it unless you establish habits around it.
Yeah.
There's nothing you will ever want in your life that you can't have more of if you establish a habit around it. And so if you want to have integration and more courage, more confidence, more joy, more fulfillment in your life, that's a practice. That's a habit. And so for me, everyone knows I use my high performance planner on the daily, on the weekly, and on the monthly. And we built prompts into it that make you examine your learning about yourself, other people, about the world. Make you examine what decisions could I have made that would have been better. Make you examine what went great, what you're grateful for, what you're thankful for, what you're looking forward to. Like, developing mindset is a practice. It's like work. If you want to finish your PowerPoint presentation, you have to sit in front of it and create it. If you want to be followed on the internet more, you have to sit in front of the cameras and talk and speak or post. The outcome is dictated by the practice. And the practice here is you need a time. You need that. When do you do it? I do it on Sundays. Sunday's integration day. Sunday's like planning day. Sunday's reflection day. We call it, in my world, the Sunday review. Review. What did you learn? Can you celebrate? What happened that was great? What are you looking forward to? And I know a lot of people go like, oh, well, I get there and, you know, I got nothing to celebrate, because they think integration is just about wins or huge milestones like you were talking about, right? You get the big deal or something. The most important integrations of all time have nothing to do with your amazing ego. What it has to do with, what did you learn? What was provided to you by God or the universe this week to educate you, to give you a new distinction? Because the reason more people aren't more confident, as we talked about in Growth Day this month, this was Confidence Month for our members. So if you're not a member yet, go to growthday.com, become a full member. But our members, we've had the best coaches in the world talking about confidence. And many of them echoed the teaching that we've been putting out, you know, since 2001, which is the competency confidence loop. When you develop more competency, when you learn more, you're more confident. Well, the good news is when you learn more and you practice that, so you have integration and integrity. Well, when you have integration and integrity, you feel good about self. Your self-worth goes, hey, you know what? I'm learning here. I'm making new distinctions. That gives you mastery and maturity. And then you're practicing it, which is in integrity, following your word and working hard for the things that matter. And all of a sudden your body goes, I feel good. Your brain goes, I feel good about myself. And your self-worth grows because you did those very things. But it doesn't happen by accident. Most people never even learn the word integration or the concept of integration until they're in therapy, and which is great. That's one great benefit of having a therapist or a great coach, is to let you know you should be integrating what you are learning. Have you reflected? Have you thought about it? What's that distinction tell you about you now? What's that distinction tell you about what you want next? What's that new thing that you just did? How can you celebrate that so that you feel it and you're rewarded in your brain to keep going when it's hard? These things are important.
Just to throw this idea out there, maybe everyone in the chat right now can just drop in one thing, one win they want to celebrate.
Yes.
Or just one difficult thing they did well, they overcame. Maybe it's a struggle they got through yesterday. Maybe it's a hard time. Maybe a friend said something that was hurtful and you wanted to just fire back, but you didn't. You just handled it in grace. That is a big win, right? It could be something small. It could be, oh, wow, I got through the day with homeschooling the kids and I didn't lose it. It could be, it could be anything. But I think like getting in this pattern, and I know it's so much more beautifully structured out in the high performance planner and everything else. But even just starting it right now, I think this would be really fun too, just because a lot of people aren't in this habit. They haven't built this habit. They just get through the day, right? So even sharing one thing, that's a win. That's a win from yesterday or from this morning already, right? And sharing it.
And remember, learning is a win. That's the most important thing. Learning is a win. So that's why most people feel so discouraged. They feel like, well, I'm not winning. I'm like, every new distinction, that is a win. Knowing what not to do next time, that's a win. A failure is a win, a new distinction, a new learning. And so when you can reorient your mindset to, oh, these lessons are winning. I'm getting better. I'm getting smarter and wiser and more compassionate, more thoughtful, more ready for next time. Like I'm getting stronger despite the struggle, but no, because of the struggle, it's good. It's like, it's honing you. You are being prepared is a mindset I have. I believe we are being prepared. I believe no one watching this, Jamie, myself, no one watching this, I don't believe any of you have met your calling yet. We don't know what our ultimate destiny is. What hangs in the balance in the future for us, what God intends for us, or what universe intends for us, what might happen, we might not even know it. But our whole life and all the challenges and the frustrations were built for this singular moment. That happened with Abraham Lincoln. With all his failures, loss, that prepared him to have the empathy to literally be able to heal a nation, right? That happened with Churchill, loss, struggle, weird jobs throughout his entire career until he got in the Admiralty, weird ass jobs. Like, what does this guy do? What is he about? And then World War II. All these experiences suddenly aligned for the perfect action leader to emerge. And you see that in history over and over and over and over again, where you don't even know that all these things. Oprah talks about her journey. She did not know they would all come together in the way that they came together to make her ultimate difference. Even though she knew what her purpose and her passion was, she could never have imagined the platform that she would be gifted. And so I just think it's so important for all of us to go, I'm being honed. For all of us to go, I am in training. I am being gifted with distinctions that are going to make me ready when the time is right. And you don't know when that time is going to be. So I'm just here, adopt a positive mindset, be grateful for the lessons you're learning, even if they're hard right now.
Yes, that's so good. I remember one of the things you just mentioned. I remember a moment when Oprah Winfrey said to Maya Angelou that, she believes her legacy will be her talk show and the tens of thousands of people that she's had on the show and interviewed, and the millions and millions of people worldwide that, she's touched their lives through her talk show. And she said that Maya said something back to her. And she said, you have no idea what your legacy will be. She said, your legacy will be every single life that you have touched in some way. And you have no idea yet what that legacy will be. And I think that's true of every single one of us. Every single one of us watching live right now, in our own in our own stage, in our own platform, in our own right. And for some of us, our platform is our living room with the people we love and care about and how we're impacting their lives. For some of us, the platform is our neighborhood and the neighbor that we wave to every day, knowing like, oh, that's the only person that might wave to that person today. You know what I mean? For some of us, our platform is part of our profession or part of our online community. And we have no idea what our legacy will be, to use that story and those words from Maya and Oprah. I think that living in that mindset, right? We're being prepared, we're being honed. That's so powerful, because then it's just a great reminder that when we're in the midst of the hard times and the hardship and the setbacks and the things that totally suck and the things that don't even feel fair at the time, and we don't see that how there could possibly be a reason it's happening to us. But when we know that in the midst of that, oh, we're building a muscle of resiliency and of strength to be able to carry what's to come, I think that's super, super powerful.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima! Baby Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.